Is it overkill to pair the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU with the RTX 5070 to play modern games? Let's find out. By the way, if you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. We'll start with a competitive shooter game where having high FPS is important. This is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. The resolution is 1440p and the graphics quality is set to basic to maximize frame rate. DLSS is set to quality mode to boost FPS even more. The FPS is not bad, above 200 right now, but this is not exactly the maximum the 9800X CPU is capable of. And we see that in the GPU load because it is staying at 99%. The GPU is fully loaded, which means that it is the bottleneck in this system right here, in this scenario. 150 plus FPS was the lowest number I've seen so far, but we're staying above 200 quite often. This is a nice fluid experience. Pretty good for this system. Nice. Alright, and that is the end of that. Here are the results. That's the system specifications. And we have 223 average FPS, 161 FPS, 1% low, and as expected, the CPU is not the bottleneck over here. The GPU is 100% the bottleneck here. Let's see how much further we can push the 9800X3D using the RTX 5070. Let's lower the resolution upscaling quality to performance mode. Apply that. The FPS is quite a bit higher now, but we are still mainly GPU bottlenecked in this particular case because the GPU utilization fluctuations are minor and might as well not exist, you know. But the FPS is getting closer to 300 now. There you go, 330 at a certain point. We've seen on the screen right there just then. However, this is DLSS performance mode. It's not the best way to actually play this game. So it means that, yeah, the 9800X3D is actually quite overkill for this particular graphics card in this particular game. Here's the result. Average FPS 268, 1% low, 206. And here we see that the CPU average FPS is actually well above 300. So yeah, the GPU is the bottleneck in this case, which means that the 9800X3D can do a lot more than the RTX 5070 can deliver in terms of performance in this particular game. But will that be the case in every game? Let's move on to the next one to find out. Next up is a CPU-demanding AAA game, Cyberpunk 2077. We are at 1440p resolution, using high graphics quality preset, DLSS. We'll set it to quality mode. In this game, crowd density is what stresses the CPU the most. That controls the number of NPCs present on the screen. Let's max it out, set it to high. I always think that it would be nice to experience this game at 120 plus FPS experience consistently using the highest crowd density, because the Night City, it is huge, densely populated by the looks of it, so it only makes sense that a lot of NPCs would roam these streets. However, using the highest crowd density, even the RTX 5070 cannot be unlocked fully in this game, because take a look at that GPU load. It is hovering at around 70%, sometimes reaching close to 80, sometimes dropping below 70, and it is not a consistent 120 FPS experience. We do have certain scenes where we see like 130, 140 FPS, but in other scenes where there's a lot more NPCs, yeah, it drops to around 90 plus even. Yeah, not great, not great. Which means that in this particular scene, in this particular case, the 9800X3D CPU is the bottleneck, not the GPU like in the previous game. However, if you are aiming for a consistent 60 or 90 FPS experience in AAA games, then the 9800X3D CPU can deliver that no problem. In this particular case, I'm talking about CPU-demanding games, such as Cyberpunk 2077, because not every game is this CPU-demanding even in 2025. Luckily, in this game, we can actually adjust the setting that stresses the CPU the most. In some other games, that is not an option. But yeah, let's take a look at the crowd density medium preset next and see what happens. The FPS is now higher, but the GPU cannot stay at full load at all times, even with these graphics settings. So the CPU is still bottlenecking the GPU in this particular case. Not by a lot, but we're losing a little bit of performance still. We're definitely ready for faster CPUs. 90–70% utilization. This is a pretty decent experience with very few dips below 120. But still, we can't get a consistent 120. Let's lower that crowd density even more. This is the lowest setting, low. That's a good start for the CPU, but we're still seeing fluctuations below 90. And that is a huge performance dip right there, which means that the CPU is still the bottleneck in this particular case. You see, yeah, the 9800X3D, it can actually be not overkill for the RTX 5070 in certain games, if you want a 120 or higher FPS experience, and the game is CPU demanding, then yeah, we could actually use a faster CPU with the RTX 5070 in this type of situations. However, using the lowest crowd density, the situation isn't that bad. This is a consistent 120 plus FPS experience. We could cap our frame rate at 120 and enjoy the game like that. Actually, let's try that now. I'll cap the FPS at 120 and see if that will result in a smooth experience. Okay, there are still a couple of frame rate dips here and there, but this is due to the game not being very stable. As you've seen previously, the frame rate and the frame time fluctuations were not horrible, not absolutely disgusting, but that wasn't smooth. That was not a smooth performance. So if I wanted a completely smooth experience, I'd probably lock my FPS even lower than 120. Let's see if 100 will cut it. Yeah, this is much smoother, but there are still minor dips in frame rate here and there. So it's still not absolutely perfect, but this is nearly perfect. Very close to perfection. And the image on the screen looks absolutely smooth. This is the way we're supposed to play these games, with a smooth frame rate. Nice. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 represents an average AAA game in 2025 very well. It is not very CPU demanding, nor is it very GPU demanding. So it's the perfect game to check out. Here are the settings: 1440p, Ultra Graphics Quality preset, and DLSS 4 is set to Quality mode. For this type of games, you really don't need a fast CPU. Even something like the Ryzen 5 9600X will deliver a brilliant experience. So yeah, the faster CPU is only good for games that are pushing high frame rates or are extremely CPU demanding, like Cyberpunk 2077, for example. Because as you can see, the GPU is fully loaded and we're getting 90 plus FPS consistently, above 100 at certain points. Well, in lots of scenes actually, 100 plus. So this is quite a nice experience for a AAA game. Oh, 90 plus FPS over here. Yeah, 90 plus FPS in this game feels brilliant. I think it will be possible to achieve a 120 FPS experience if we lower the graphics settings to high. Let's go. There we go, quite nice. 160 plus FPS over here. And let's see. Over here we're getting 224. The CPU is still not bottlenecking this system right here, even if we boost the frame rate by looking at the ground. The 9800X3D can do a lot more in this game. I've seen it, I know it. So yeah, in this particular case, the 9800X3D is overkill for the RTX 5070. But take a look at this experience. How nice, how smooth. Wow. This is a proper high refresh rate experience. There aren't that many games in 2025 where you can actually achieve this, because a lot of games, especially Unreal Engine 5 games, they're extremely GPU demanding. In conclusion, the 9800X3D CPU is indeed too fast for the RTX 5070 in most cases. There are very few niche cases where the RTX 5070 is actually way too fast for the Ryzen 7 over here. Those are the CPU demanding games where you want to push high frame rates, like Cyberpunk 2077. If you want 120 plus FPS with crowd density maxed out, stressing the CPU to the maximum, then that's not gonna happen. You'll need a faster CPU. Unfortunately, I don't think there are any available, because this is one of the fastest CPUs. Yes, the 9950X3D is slightly faster, but that's only slightly faster. And it's definitely not worth pairing that thing with the RTX 5070. If you're looking to future-proof your PC build, then this CPU is still a great option. It is the fastest CPU and it will serve you for many years to come. But if you want a more balanced build, then something like the Ryzen 7 9700X is actually a more balanced pair to the RTX 5070. Let's not forget that you can still buy the 7800X3D at a cheaper price than the 9800X3D, and it performs quite well. It's kind of a middle ground between the 97X and the 9800X3D. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this CPU-GPU combo? Let's have a conversation. And by the way, if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Furthermore, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. It helps out a lot. I appreciate it. And if you haven't already, then subscribe for more videos like this. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.